Tune in live 365, all those places too, through the Fringe FM stream. If you want to hit us up in chat, hit us up in the YouTube. Tonight, we're going to do a broad overview of the out-of-body experience because right before Halloween, I think it's cool that we dive into this and get a clear understanding of the OBE stuff, you know, before things get too scary. So, real quick, I want to say big shout out to Domek for taking that truck. Our brother Domek's about to take that big truck and drive into the hurricane to help people. And man, I talked to Juan a little bit. A lot of people are nervous about the hurricanes. You know, all the stuff on the web about, well, the government's doing it and it did it. I don't, whatever. Right now, we need to focus on keeping people as safe as possible, right? Making sure that those people are safe, and if you can help, and if you need help, let us know. Let everybody know, right? It's hopefully this is it. Hopefully this is the last one. Every now and then, this happens sometimes, you know, to us here in this country. Every now and then we have these years where these hurricanes hit back to back to back, and it can get pretty devastating. So, you know, big vibes to people that are helping, prayers with the people that need it, and keep us posted. Call-in number for tonight is 501-777-5631. What's up, Ari, Dan, Gypsy Jenny, Grant gets out, Domek. Did I miss somebody? Chris Miner, and all the lurkers out there, and everybody listening on the stream. So the out-of-body experience has always been like this mysterious phenomenon where a person feels like their consciousness is leaving their physical body. A lot of times it allows us to observe ourselves and our surroundings when we detach, often from an exterior elevated perception. I almost had the coffee done before the show. Almost. But there have been just as many reports of out-of-body experiences, just as probably, I would say, more than, I could be wrong about this, but probably more than the ET experience. So, but we have to take this into consideration, not just the people that are having sleep experiences, but the people that claim to have experiences that are spiritual, religious experiences. They talk about it in the Bible. There's verses that say whether I was in the body or out of the body, that kind of thing. There's scientific research on this. Yes, there's actual scientific research on this and tests and things like that. Lots of people have experienced it. They describe floating above their bodies or traveling to other places or dimensions. So most of the time, though, when I talk about it, people tend to bring up lucid dreaming or near-death experiences or meditation. And usually when I hear those things, to me that means, well, this person hasn't experienced the OBE state yet, right? A lot of other people believe that, like I do myself, but I'm in the camp of if you have an OBE, you're actually peering in to the nature of consciousness and reality itself and how it works. It's a fascinating subject. I'm super passionate about it. No matter what's going on in the world, I love talking about it. But it's still shrouded in controversy and mystery. Still to this day. There are plenty of people like us that are just trying to have the experience or having these experiences, but there are scientists, actually, and we'll get into this coming up. There are people that talk about having the experience, but there is real scientific research that's going into this. On a mass scale, I wouldn't say that, but I know that you've heard me say that there's no scientific research, and that's not true. There is. There's a little. Actually, there's more than I thought there was, you know. And we'll talk about that coming up shortly. So I think the thing that fascinates it, though, is not the scientific research. It's the thing where people claim to have traveled to other dimensions, and they always come back with new insight or something, right? Stay with me on this, though. We're going to explore this tonight. Now, I think this is going to be the most super insightful thing. Not just, I think the OBE is probably, well, OBEs and NDEs is probably one of the most insightful things, both spiritually and scientifically. I believe that wholeheartedly. We just don't know much about the science. Consciousness is such a hard thing to study. It really is. It's not. We can't measure it. We don't know how to measure it. And everything in science is measured. Like everything. So how do we study this scientifically? How does that even happen? And the only way, and this is what I love about it. I mean, the only way that we can study this scientifically is to peer into it through experience. It takes people that are willing to do it, that are willing to go into the void and experience it and like face their fears about it. Is that music playing? Cool. All right. Yeah, that was music playing. Whoops. All right. So first, let's get into some old stuff, right? So we have, if we go back into the past, we have things like shamanic traditions, which is one of the earliest belief systems there is. Shamans have been around forever talking about out-of-body experiences. Thousands of years, shamans have used techniques like things like chanting, drumming, dancing to enter altered states of consciousness, right? And when they get in these states, a lot of times they believe their souls can leave their body and travel to the spiritual world. I think one of the best shows I ever did on this was about the Dogon with, I was going to say Lon Milo DeQuette, but it's not. It's Laird Scranton. And some of their beliefs were fascinating, talking about this stuff. I mean, it was kind of exactly what we talked about now on an intuitive level, except they were explaining it in their pictures and in their, I guess you could say, sketches, that they believed that this place was the illusion. I bet you guys think I'm pouring vodka right now, don't you? I would tell you if I was. I've got nothing to hide. It's not vodka, though. But they would talk about the illusion being the reality, and that our reality is the actual illusion. But regardless, not just the Dogon, but other shamans would use these states for personal insight, to serve the community, to gather wisdom, to heal the sick, to even communicate with the dead. Things like that. And a lot of times I don't think they would plan on communicating with the dead, so they would just go on these adventures and end up communicating with the dead. And they believe that if you could leave the body, they truly believe this, like if you could leave the body, not only was it a gift, but it was a responsibility. It was a true responsibility. It was something that you were supposed to use for the betterment of other people. And I've looked into this. I mean, there's 9 million shows we can do on this. I mean, Siberia, Mongolia, even in our native country, the Native Americans, they've been passing down rituals even to this day meant to guide people outside of the body. It's not talked about a whole lot, is it? It's not talked about as much as Robert Monroe. And these weren't random experiences like, oh man, I had an out-of-body experience the other night, or some kind of chaotic thing. These were structured, ceremonial, intentional, practical experiments, or I guess you could say rituals, right? Designed to connect with higher powers and uncover hidden knowledge. So I feel like, in a sense, I don't know about you, but in a sense, man, I feel like we lost that edge. Somewhere along the way, we just kind of like alchemy. Alchemy used to be the biggest thing going. It was the medicine and the science, and it healed people, helped people. We learned a bunch from it, but somewhere along the way, someone stepped in. Maybe it was science, or maybe it was just a mainstream. I don't know, and it took it over. And that's something I don't understand. Like, what part of us went from being tribal, shamanic, spiritual people to maybe we swung way intellectual in the past, and we said, well, I know that you can access entire realms beyond our physical sense realities, and I know that you believe that we exist beyond our normal reality, but we're going to step in and we're going to say that we need to explore this more, because that's just balderdash. It's not real. That's what happens. That's all it takes is some people to experiment with that and say, well, that it's all in the brain. These guys are crazy. They're not really experiencing spiritual stuff at all. And then everybody else just claps like a seal. Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. And then, I mean, I don't want to take a left turn about the power of belief, but as soon as we as a society shift our belief into something, whatever was in the past tends to remain there, and there's only a few of us left. I think that's kind of what happened to the shamans. That's what I'm saying. You know, Domek says, I'm about to spend 3 weeks in a hellscape in Florida. Well, brother, go down there and help those people that live in that hellscape, because there's going to be some people that are about to lose their homes. Hopefully not that many, though. Let's see. I wish I was down there with you. I had somebody say that today. Aren't you glad? The third person. Aren't you glad that you're not in Florida? No, not really. Maybe I'm weird, but I like to be in the suck with people and helping them, not just be around when things are good. You know, work hard, play hard, baby. Sometimes things are a fight. Anyways, there's enough mansplaining about my philosophy on that. But I wish I was with you, man. I wish I was down there with you helping. But not just the shamans. When you look into ancient Egypt, the Egyptians had especially, man, they had a really intricate view of the soul. They believed the soul had multiple parts, and I personally believe that the Kabbalah and the mystery teachings came from at least Egypt, probably before then. But they believed that it had multiple parts. They called it, I guess the most important part was they had the Ka and the Ba, right? But the Ba was considered, the Ba was considered a person's spiritual essence. So the Ba could leave the body after death or even while it was still alive, and even certain states of consciousness. And I think, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth has that in there too. But that was channeled by Dorial. Doesn't mean it's fake or anything like that. All spiritual texts were channeled. So you can't say, well, that one's channeled and that one's not legit. They were all channeled. All of them. You know, God didn't come down here and write things. God channeled everything through every religion to some man that wrote it down. Okay. But the Ba was considered a person's spiritual essence. So when you look at Egyptian art, the Ba is often depicted as a bird with a human head, symbolizing its ability to travel freely. But just like the shamans, I feel sad when I talk about this too, because just like the shamans, the journey of the Ba wasn't like a random thing. It was a super important part of their understanding of the afterlife. And if you ever study Egyptian literature, if you get into that stuff, it is beautiful. And we're talking about a dynasty that lasted 3,000 years, man. Like they understood something. We look around at our dynasty here and we're lucky to last a few hundred if we keep going this way. Now, they did talk about systems of gods, though. They believed that the Ba could visit the realms of the gods or revisit loved ones in dreams. And in their texts, like the Book of the Dead, the Egyptians provided lots of instructions on how we could navigate our afterlives, how we could avoid dangers, how we could get safe passages into other worlds. I always thought it was symbolic, really, when I read those books, like from Budge or whoever. Like I always this is all just symbols. This isn't real. But remember what William Buhlman said about like the power of belief. How important is that? How important is our power of belief? Like imagine that dynasty, even if what they were talking about wasn't ultimate reality, they ceremonially believed it so much. It was in their artwork, it was in their ritual, it was in their ceremony, it was part of their law of the land. So don't you think that when they passed away, they probably experienced everything they wrote in those books? Because we take our beliefs with us, according to Buhlman and Valdoon and other astral travelers, we take our beliefs with us into this realm. and we create consensus reality. So that tells me that somewhere in the astral realm, there's probably a consensus reality of exactly of what the Egyptians talked about. Just like there's like a heaven somewhere in the astral realm, there's a hell somewhere in the astral realm, and whatever other religion, there is, right? So yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So the Egyptian, the Book of the Dead, this told us about things about how the soul should go through the afterlife, how to avoid dangers. And like I said before, because I took a left turn, sorry, I thought it was symbols, but it was very real to them. Now, if you keep going around the world, I guess we could go to South America, or we could go further east. If you go to Tibet, the Tibetan Buddhism takes the concept of soul traveling outside the body just as serious. They had this practice, and I can never pronounce it right, but I think it was called Foa or Fawa, right? So this was a meditative technique that was meant to transfer consciousness from the body of one realm at the time of death to another. But this wasn't limited to death with them alone. The advanced monks could get out of body. I've read books about this. Like, you remember that website, sacredtext.com, sacred-text.com. That site's been around forever. Forever. It's been around forever. And I read so many books from there. And like, I remember vaguely how they would talk about how they could go from lucid dreams to these out-of-body states, and from there they could consciously leave the dream body and experience reality outside of it. And these are old books, man. Super old books. See, those Buddhists, the Tibetans, I guess, they, like the Egyptians and like the shamans, they thought that these out-of-body experiences were part of their spiritual path towards enlightenment. They also thought, like the Dogon, that this world that we see now is an illusion, a construct of the mind, and that's it. This is why some of these cats they off themselves when they were doing, burn themselves alive, things like that. They didn't look at human life the same way a lot of us do. They weren't, how we say, well, don't be too physically focused, don't be too materially focused, things like that. These guys took this to a whole nother level, man. They learned to separate their consciousness from their physical form. They also believed that they could access deeper, dangerous layers of reality, seeing things as they truly are. And you can see this in their artwork too. I forget the name of the guy, Robert. What was the name of that guy? My recall sucks with my guests, man. But I had this guy named Robert. I forget his last name. I'll think of it in a minute. But he sent me an occult book from it was like a Tibetan occult book, and it had all these images of things that were in the underworld or whatever, and it was freaky looking, man. Almost couldn't look at the book very long. It was so freaky. But wasn't Robert Bonomo. It was someone else though. But they also believed that they could interact with enlightened beings. So what I'm saying is from the shamans to the Egyptians, through the Ba and the afterlife, to the monks, transcending the illusions of physical reality, to the Dogon, the ideas of leaving the body, this isn't a new thing. The thing that bothers me the most is this has been around for so long now. And it's still not taken as seriously as I'd like to see it. We talk about it a lot, but it's still not taken as seriously as I would like. I don't know about you, but as I would like. And even these traditions, these religions, Think about this. These teachings were worlds apart. They weren't the same at all, but they did share a common belief. And I'm not talking about a creator or a God. They all shared a belief that they could and had accounts of traveling outside the body. They believed and did it, wrote about it, talked about it, that the soul or consciousness could transcend the physical body, travel to other realms, do it for healing, for insight, or for spiritual liberation. That's fascinating. It's a thing that united them all. And I don't know if this comes from some kind of weird insecurity that I'm unaware of, because I don't think it's an insecurity. But maybe I remember going on this one show. It was more of like a comedy show or something like that. What's up, Strum and Ronan? Glad to have you, brother. They had people on there that were like, you're what did they call me? They said, you're a schizophrenic. How could something that it's been around for so long, thousands and thousands of years, so many people reporting this ability to do it, still people don't accept it? They accept Starbucks. They accept taxes. They accept all kinds of crazy concepts and ideas, but it's still not a mainstream thing to tell someone, hey, man, you're more than that meat suit. It shouldn't be like an realization, right? It should just be like a common knowledge thing at this point, you know? But even then, I also think, too, that through the thousands of years that we've been doing this and all the texts that were written about it and everybody's experiences all the way up to Robert Monroe and even our experiences today, what if we are still just beginning to explore? We're just still touching the tips of what's really out there, you know? What if all of this stuff that we've claimed is all these super spiritual systems of belief, all of these OBEs, even Buellman's, even Monroe's, what if all of those experiments and out-of-body trips and stuff are still just barely touching the tip of the iceberg when it comes to exploring consciousness? I have a really deep intuitive feeling that we're still just barely in there peaking, you know? So anyways, let's go. I want to talk about what science thinks is really going on with the human brain and how certain researchers today are trying to explain all this stuff away. But let's look in the chat. Yeah, they accept black holes, right? Humanity is strayed. Dan says humanity is strayed from spirituality to materialism because it's easy. That's one way to look at it. It's definitely more comfortable, isn't it? Thought creates realities. Yeah. Chris Miner says, in my opinion, it wasn't used to gain access to knowledge, but was used to harm and then suppress. Ruby Owl, thanks for joining us. BB equals 22, plus they based it in New York. Oh, I know how much you're into Robert Monroe. Did you realize that the movie Soul was based off of his... No, I didn't. I need to check that movie out. BB equals 22, plus they based it. Man, I need to check that out. Are you serious? I don't even know if I've seen that movie. Oh, what's up, Ari? I don't know if I said hi to Ari. So let's look at what I love William Buellman stuff, man. Like, this guy to me is the bee's knees of astral travel. Let's see what he's got to say about this. This is from his YouTube channel. You guys should definitely check his YouTube channel out too. You know,
experiences, and others seem to go nowhere and have mediocre experiences. And it all comes down generally to one thing, and that is mindset, effective mindset. Often people are fixated by their techniques, and they look at the techniques themselves as a magic bullet. Techniques are not a magic bullet. If there is one, it's your own mindset. And a self-empowered mindset is the essential key to effective out-of-body exploration. In other words, your ability to break free from all of the subconscious belief systems and indoctrination that you've had from childhood. Many of us feel, oh, they're not indoctrinated. I hear this all the time. But I can assure you that we have all been the result of some form of indoctrination. Just think of it for a moment. We have been indoctrinated from...
This is Sudi's clip, by the way. It's a really good clip she dropped in the Discord, so I wanted to replay it.
Birth, to accept the idea that we are a biological being, that we are our bodies. And we take it for granted because it's the basis of all civilization. Yet, in the first year of my out-of-body experiences, I learned a shocking thing. During many of my experience, I experienced myself beyond my humanoid form. And for me, especially in early 70s, this was a major shocker because I realized that, oh my God, I'm not a human being as I've been taught to believe. I am consciousness. I'm a pure consciousness with the ability to take any form, any shape that is necessary for me to achieve the goals that I'm setting for myself. In other words, the very basis of our entire civilization is based on the fact that we're human beings. But what if that assumption itself is flawed? And if that assumption is flawed, then how many of the other things that we have learned from birth are also flawed or absolutely false? It's about examining your own mindset closely and opening yourself to a greater potential of what you truly are. So the bottom line is that many people limit themselves by accepting, even often in their subconscious mind and conscious mind, of some fear-based philosophies. For instance, this idea of negative beings that are lurking to do harm to us. Nothing could be further from the truth. We are immortal, powerful beings. We create our reality. We're the ones who must take control of our state of consciousness. It's up to us to be the commander of our state of consciousness. The only thing in our life of value is what we take with us at the moment of our death. We're taking nothing else with us but our state of consciousness.
And that's a trippy thought.
That is the key. That's the only thing worth focusing on. Unfortunately, many people focus on the exterior, when the key to an effective mindset is to always focus on your own state of consciousness, to enhance your own state of consciousness. It's essential. For example, fearlessness. Fearlessness is a major attribute when you're exploring beyond your body. If you're afraid of every little thing that occurs, you're going to have a difficult time with this. You have to learn and understand, either in some manner, that you are immortal, you're creative, and you're powerful.
That's one thing I want to talk about too, right there. Okay. Every time I get into this discussion, and I want everybody's point of view, so this is not me complaining. I'm just making a notice here, okay? I've noticed that when we really start getting deep into this subject and we really start getting passionate about it, the fear-mongering tends to flood in. Well, what about this? What about that? What about demons? Did you see this guy's show? Or this guy had this experience when he went out of body. He said it was scary. And what about this? And what about that? And it's like, every time we start to penetrate this, and even after he explains, there could definitely be some super scary stuff in the astral realm. If you believe it's there, for sure. If you take your subconscious fears, you create there, imagine how scary it could be. But seems like people are just passing that point up, that we're creating these things or taking things with us into these realities. It's like this mindset that when we get there, we're going to realize that it's some kind of bad thing or something's going to hurt us. And I'm just fascinated why that comes up. Is that because of the human condition? I wonder. Like, why are we like that?
You create your reality, and that will determine your path. That will determine the effectiveness of your OBEs and even the length of time you can maintain that state. Okay, also, it's important to realize that we are interactive. The non-physical dimensions are thought responsive. Many people don't even think of this. They think everything that they observe is a reality. It's not the case at all. All form, in all of its many guises, in every dimensional state, are a vehicle of consciousness. It's not reality itself, because reality is consciousness. So it's important to be aware and not be obsessed with the outer facade that you encounter, and stay focused on your inner self or in your own state of consciousness. That's why it's so important to use controlled techniques like awareness now to enhance your state.
Clarity now.
The moment you leave your body, it is imperative to use a powerful command affirmation that will allow you to enhance your state of consciousness so you can be an effective explorer. In other words, for many years, I started out using clarity now. That helped.
So William Buhlman, we'll get back into what he has to say about this, but he would make statements like clarity now, consciousness now. Anytime things would get fuzzy, he would say those things. Yeah, I think Sudi's right about this too. So Sudi says, I saw a reply last night that Buhlman had written to a comment about the soul trap prison planet. He was like, it's sad. This fear-based belief system that humans perpetuate. They don't know that you create your reality. Imagine, he does seem kind of frustrated with it, like he's angry and pissed off about it. Not too bad. I mean, he's a pretty mellow dude, but he does seem frustrated with it, right? But here's the thing. If those things are freaky as people say they are, and scary as they say they are, or bad or whatever, don't you think, I mean, this guy has been getting out of body since the 70s or late 60s. Muldoon did it for years. Monroe did it for years. Don't you think that, I mean, he looks pretty healthy to me. He doesn't look scarred up. Did they all experience something that was scary? Well, yeah, you should read their books. You should listen to their experiences. I think, in my opinion, you should. Give everybody a chance, But listen to their experiences, to what happens when they overcame the fear. Imagine whole consensus realities just morphed into something else. That means, like, if, let's say you were astral traveling and you went to a place called heaven. Now, heaven looked exactly like this earth does, except it was way cooler. And it looked as real as this does right now, that me and you are sitting here looking at each other. Of course you're going to believe, if you don't know any better, that that's reality. Right? I would think, damn, I'm in heaven. Or I'm in hell, depending on what I thought was going to happen. But the moment you wake up, it's like waking up from a lucid dream. And then imagine that whole reality structure morphing or rejecting you from it because you became aware that it's just a consensus reality. That's a trippy thought, right? So anyways, let's look into the science of this, all right? Let's get super left-brained about it. Other than spiritual journeys, right? We talked about how different cultures have viewed this as a spiritual thing, spiritual journeys that offer access to higher realms, right? So we talked about that. But modern science has attempted to explain them in terms of brain function for sure. And I'm not throwing this, you can't throw this away, but we have to take both sides, right? Remember that 2-in-1 thing. So modern science discusses this as brain functions and psychological states. There are neurological studies based on this with theories about what it is, but not facts, right? So one of the leading theories suggests that OBEs are linked to disturbances in how the brain processes spatial awareness and body perception. So there are actual studies that have shown that it's called the I'm going to butcher this word. I know I am. Temporaparatal junction, a region of the brain that integrates sensory information and creates our perceptions of the physical body and space, which is a key player. They're saying, just like they always do, that this is a malfunction. And this malfunction of the brain creates a sense of detachment from the body, which allows us to feel as though we're floating above ourselves or observing some other body from another location. Every time they you ever notice that when science explains these types of things, it's always some kind of malfunction or something wasn't working right. Something's not working right in the body. They're so materialistic that that's the only way they can explain it, right? There's another one that talks about the vestibular system, which this thing called the vestibular system controls balance and spatial orientation. The vestibular system provides information about motion, balance, and body position relative to the surrounding environment. Okay, cool. Disruptions to this system, whether through trauma, illness, or certain conditions. That's pretty vague, right? Certain conditions. They can create sensations of floating or movement, potentially triggering OBEs. For example, here's an example. Pilots experiencing sensory deprivation or rapid changes in altitude and motion sometimes report out-of-body sensations. And this suggests that OBEs could result from the brain's attempt to compensate for a lack of normal sensory input, creating an illusion of leaving the body. Now, think about this. Didn't Muldoon in the 20s say that there are certain things that can jar the body so much that the etheric double will come out? Didn't I tell you guys a story about how the guy that was painting epoxy on the swimming pool that I worked with, that he passed out? Like, we saw his body hit the ground. And then this guy was so messed up, he looked at us and he said, man, when you see yourself down the wall painting and you know you got to catch your body, that's what he said to me. And I wasn't even into out-of-body experiences back then. You better catch your body or you're not gonna make it. Was that just his, I don't know, what are they calling it again? Vestibular system? Him seeing himself paint down the wall? You know. I mean, scientists are proposing that this stuff definitely happens, these experiences, but they're not taking it seriously as if it's like a real thing. It's some kind of malfunction according to them. But there's so much data, even with like NDEs. People that are close to death or in life-threatening situations, people that are in hospitals, that are in hospice, they're reporting all the time getting out of body, or floating outside the body, or observing other scenes from distant distances. But again, scientists claim to say, well, this is just the brain responding to extreme stress. Like a heart attack could trigger an OBE due to the disrupted blood flow to the brain, or partially or particular areas involved in sensory integration and the perception of self. It sounds smart, right? When it's presented that way, it sounds like, well, that's logical. That's probably what it is. So the OBE spiritual thing is nonsense. But if you really dig into this, that's the best explanation you got for some of these experiences, because some people are reporting some fascinating stuff that there's no way they could be experiencing from just a brain malfunction or lack of blood flow. That, of course, that's been looked at too. And then other scientists say, well, we propose that during the life-threatening situation, there's these chemicals like ketamine, like compounds that get released in the brain, maybe DMT. And these chemicals induce hallucinations or altered states of consciousness. They're still thinking materially, right? That's all it is. And this contributes to the out-of-body sensation frequently reported by people that are about to die. They have to explain it biologically. There's nothing outside of that in their minds, right? Even therapists, psychologists, they do the same thing. They have called it a dissociative experience. Well, disassociation happens on an unconscious level, number one, most of the time. People aren't when I had my OBE, the first one I had, I didn't disassociate from myself consciously. I didn't do any of that. I just pretty much stayed how I am right now, except my body stopped working and I was still there. I know what disassociation is, what it means, even what it feels like a little bit. It wasn't disassociation. But they say, no, this is just a temporary disruption in the connection between consciousness and the sense of self. This can, and remember, psychology could be considered still a soft science, right? But disassociation can occur in a variety of psychological conditions, including trauma, stress, or sleep disturbances. Some people experience an OBE spontaneously during sleep paralysis, which is another thing, a state in which the mind is awake but the body is temporarily immobilized. And in this state, the brain may construct an OBE. They make it totally up. They make all this up. They're strange experiences. They're disembodied feelings. All of this is a disassociation and kind of made up. Bullshit. I didn't make shit up. I wasn't disassociated. And I've lived long enough. I know what making stuff up is, and I know what dissociation is because I've done them both. We don't have to get into lucid dreaming because lucid dreaming is lucid dreaming. There doesn't need to be an argument there. Lucid dreaming is cool on both sides of the borders, science and the spiritual. But it's not the same thing as an etheric OBE. It's just not whatsoever. Sorry. But in both cases, you do experience a separation from the physical body, I guess. But it's not the same thing. You can cross over between them, though. That's the next thing I want to learn how to do, is go from a lucid dream to OBE, or from OBE into lucid dream, because that would be pretty rad. So now they are intrigued by it scientifically, so I want to get into this before we have to do that top of the hour thing, but they started inducing OBEs. Recent advancements even in virtual reality and that provide like this, I guess you could say artificial feedback, sensory feedback. Yeah. They're saying they can induce OBEs in controlled settings like this. This is the first time I've heard of this, but there was an experiment where participants wore virtual reality headsets that showed a live video feed of their body from behind. And through synchronized visual and tactile stimuli, such as stroking the participant's back while showing them their virtual self being touched, they could induce the feeling of leaving the body. So participants often describe feeling like they were in the space of their virtual avatar, detached from their real physical self. Well, that's different, man. Now this is tricky because it makes me sound stupid when I say that's different, but it is different. It is. That's kind of like an illusion of the mind when the mind is actually playing a trick on itself. Because I've done that before. Whether you go on a field trip to Mid-America Museum, and you go through all those illusions and it messes with your head and things like that. Yeah. The mind can play, your senses can play tricks on themselves, even with VR, but that's not the OBE experience. This is what they put in their report. After these experiments, these findings suggest that OBEs may occur when the brain receives conflicting sensory information, causing it to create an alternate perception of the body's location. Isn't it weird that, like, I'm laughing at the scientific explanation of this? Because if you've ever had like a true etheric OBE, the way they explain and talk about OBEs, whether neurologically from the brain or from their illusory thing or the psychological explanation, however they try to explain it scientifically, doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. You know, I think I've already talked to, not Darius J. Wright, the other one. I keep getting him confused with somebody else. Man, everybody's got books on OBEs now. So Jadon is talking about Michael Raduga's book. Darius J. Wright, I've heard of him too. Yeah. So Jadon, or I'm probably saying your name wrong. He's saying this is BS. Once you've purposely done it, then it's real. Yeah, man, it's not the same as what they're talking about. It's not a neurological malfunction. It's not an optical illusion or a trick of the mind. It's none of those things, man. It's so far from it once you've experienced it. It's even more real than this reality. I felt it was, actually. I mean, it's cool. They do offer some like intriguing insights into how our brain works, but this is why we get stuck in our bodies. Or some people say, I felt like I was upside down, or I was on the floor, or I could see in a 360 view, or whatever. It's because we're still kind of stuck to the meat suit. So our brain is messing with it. When we fully separate, though, you'll know the difference. You will, trust me. It still remains compelling. You know, these scientists, while they're explaining this stuff and writing their reports, they're still going, there's got to be a part of them that's like, what if these are actually real, though? Or this doesn't really sound like what those people are telling me, but this is my best explanation. Right. It's kind of like when Hynek was explaining all those alien encounters. Oh, it must have been a gas, or it was this or that. You know, where the military had him go in there and make sure that he explained it in a way that kind of wasn't an actual ET experience. It doesn't matter. Neuroscience, psychology, and those people, they still haven't gotten past malfunctions or illusions yet. That's where they are. I think most of them are stuck on this vestibular system theory. Let's see. Let me see if I can look this up. How they actually did this. Because I don't want to just talk about it, make fun of it, and not know how they did it. Okay. Vestibular. Okay. All right. So researchers have conducted several famous experiments to explore the brain's role in producing out-of-body experiences, focusing particularly on the vestibular system, which helps control balance and spatial orientation. Disruptions to this system can cause sensations of floating or detachment from the body, or what people are calling OBEs. One landmark study involved electrically stimulating the we already talked about that. The temporoparietal junction, whatever. It's saying the same thing I just said, though. Wait, here's something about a live feed, though. Yeah, like I just said, they use virtual reality to induce OBEs in a lab setting. They combine visual and tactile stimuli showing participants in a live video feed of their body from a different perspective. Researchers were able to create the sensation of being outside the body. The sensations, right? These findings demonstrate that conflicting sensory information can trick the brain into creating the illusion of leaving the body. That's not the same thing. I want to go do this so I can, because I can feel the difference, I assure you. If that's the case, all right, here's the thing. If that's the case, then how did I do what I did? Like, there's no way, man. Yeah, it's not a trick. One, you never fall asleep. You never fall asleep. Two, if that's the case, then how are all these people like Buellman, myself, Robert Monroe, and others going to other places and seeing and witnessing things that are actually happening in physical reality when there's no way that they could be there in that space or affecting the physical realm? I mean, you know how, like, if you dive into a, have you ever done this where you like dive into a pool? Okay. So if you dive into a pool and you just dive, you don't feel anything crazy. But if you like stand on the edge of a pool and you fall into the pool with your feet, and as soon as your head hits the water, you let your feet just kind of flop over, right? You get that sense of you don't know what's up or down for a minute. And it also feels like you're kind of floating, like you get that head floaty feeling or whatever. That's what they're saying is the OBE experience. That's what they're saying. Well, that feels like you're kind of out of body. That's nowhere near what the OBE experience is. That's how far science is off from it, man. I shouldn't be getting this kind of upset about it, but, you know. Now when we got to do the break thing, but when we come back from the station, I want to talk about some true stories from people who've had OBEs. We'll get into Buellman stuff again, how this stuff changed people's lives, how it healed things like cancer, other things like that. Does that sound like a vestibular displacement to you, or a psychological displacement? If that's their best explanation for the OBE experience, science is so far off. And that's pretty sad. And I think that bothers me just a little. Yeah, just a little. Not too much, though. Be right back. Oh, yeah, I got an announcement I have to make, too, when we come back, about something that's launching, if you haven't heard already. Kick over you.
So, you love talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or, will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month, at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeCina, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Root. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the paranormal radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
yeah,
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, "Mom, we'll figure it out."
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/iPhone.
That I'm going to miss if we do what I'm about to announce that we're going to do is that 4 or 5 minute break so I can run and grab some coffee. So here's the thing before we get back into the nature of OBEs in today and what's really going on in our society with it and all this stuff, is that Fringe.fm's been around for God, I don't know how long, since 2015, 2016, something like that. And, it's always been a digital radio station, and it will be, but the radio station is going to be more of like a novelty kind of thing. Because Fringe FM, starting this weekend, is going to be a podcast called Fringe FM. And it's going to be focused around it's not going to be like Lighting the Void where it's just one host and one thing. It's going to have several hosts. It's going to be a radio styled podcast. Really cool. We're even going to do audio dramas. It's going to be like a really creative thing. It's going to embrace the value for value in podcasting 2.0 kind of lifestyle. So it'll be more of a community podcast than anything. And we already have a pretty solid crew that's going to start on it. Where that goes, who knows? But right now we do. And our first episode is actually going to be about OBEs. And then our Halloween episode is going to be pretty fun. It's going to be really fun. But the live stream will still be there. The Fringe FM live stream, the affiliated shows that want to be on there. We just want to get more people involved on a creative level with it. So if you go to fringe.fm, you can check out the new website. You can look into the new value for value model. You can submit artwork clips. You can host your own show. It's really going to be based around a more free kind of thing. And I think we're going to start out trying to do like a bi-monthly show for Fringe FM. And then if it grows, then, we'll do more. But I created that whole thing not to really have a radio station, but to be a part of a family, right? Or a crew, I guess, of people. Because it gets pretty isolating doing this stuff alone all the time. And man, when I told the guys about it, I told everybody on the station, this is the new thing. I wanted everybody that's on the station to be involved with it. And almost everybody said yes, they loved it. A couple of people were like, nope, I'm not doing that. And I was like, okay, cool. I want everybody to be happy. That's for sure, So I can't wait to launch it. It's going to be a totally not real different from this show, but it'll be like me, Alex Exum, Dave Cruz, Gigi. I think Anthony Tyler's going to try to come on next year because he's doing his thing with his electrician school. Juan's even going to be a part of it. Dancing Dave. So imagine all of us talking about one subject, making it a radio-style themed podcast with all kinds of different segments and cool stuff about this. It's going to be fun. And one of our first goals is to get the ads. One of our first support goals for this thing is to get the ads off of everything, including the stream, right? Including the live stream. We want no ads, no corporate interest, no even Live 365 telling us, well, you got to play these ads so you can play the music you want to play. Now, there's a level that we can pay them where we don't have to pay ads. We just want it to be fun and community orientated. That's it. Back to the OBEs. All right, so let's get back to Buellman. Before I dig into the well-known stories, like there's a really cool story. This lady, Anita, talks about how the OBE state cured her cancer. But I honestly think, and I'll recap real quick, that science's explanation for the out-of-body experience, as articulate and logical as it sounds, is so far removed from what it actually feels like and so far away from the actual, especially etheric OBE experience. Like I said, man, people can present things very well, very articulate, very intelligent, to where it sounds like it's true. But in this case, and I love science, don't get me wrong, I do, I love science. We need it. But in this case, they're wrong. They're just wrong, There's a huge cup of coffee. Dude, it's filled up halfway, man. You guys just let me live my life, man. All right, here we go. Buellman. I use that cup. I use the same styrofoam cup all day. I just rinse it out and put other stuff in it. Here we go.
Helped me to be sharper, to maintain my OBEs. Now, for the last 25 years, I've been using awareness now. It allows me not only to become sharper, but it also allows me to maintain the out-of-body state for extended periods of time. Anytime that you feel yourself becoming heavy or less mobile, or your perception capabilities become diminished, you must enhance your state of consciousness. It's essential to prolong the experience. We have to be aware that all realities, physical, but especially non-physical realities, are thought responsive to some degree, and that we have the ability to control that state, and we do it internally. Also, it's important to be, as far as mindset is, to be always open to your own potential. Own your own power, that you have the ability to have profound experiences. Know it within yourself. When you have an out-of-body experience, move inward. Know that you are the commander and that you have the ability to answer the questions, whatever question it may be. Ask questions. Make demands of yourself. Ask whatever you need to know. If you're in an unknown area, demand the answer. Where am I? Whatever it is you need, make that inner request and allow the answer to flow through you. Absolutely know that you have the ability to navigate, to observe, and explore your non-physical realities, and own it. Accept your own personal powers. Realize that you are pure consciousness. You are temporarily, we're all using vehicles of consciousness for expression. We're doing it in the physical body. We need a physical body to express ourselves and to commune with others, to learn, to have physical experiences. And we also, in other non-physical realities and other dimensional spaces, we will use other vibrational bodies. But you have to be aware that these bodies are not you. They're still vehicles of your consciousness. We possess many energy bodies. We're multidimensional beings. In the workbook, I will provide some clear, just say graphs that will help you to get a clearer idea of this. But it's know yourself, know your multidimensional nature, and you'll be more comfortable and have more ability to navigate. Also realize that you are immortal. You have nothing to fear.
Do you know, once you have one etheric projection, just one solid etheric out-of-body projection, the way that you guys are talking about how Buellman is right now, you'll be that same way. When you hear these neuroscientists and other people talking about, well, the reason why you're experiencing this is this and that. Like, once you see this place, you'll be just as frustrated as he is. Why do you think I've been so obsessed with this for years, trying to talk to people about it? You think it's because I had some kind of weird sensory experience that I couldn't quite explain because something in my brain messed up? No.
You have total control. When you know you're in control,
I admire this guy,
and you take the reins, you have full control. Also, realize that the out-of-body state is the most natural state. Actually, in our physical body, it's just a temporary experience. We're projecting our consciousness now into a physical body. Our out-of-body state is a much more natural state for us because we're closer to our own source. And later in the program, we'll talk about this. Also, it's important to realize that all that our thoughts, our fears can manifest. If we have a block, for instance, if you encounter a wall, that wall means that you have a block within yourself that you have to confront. If you confront somebody or something that is blocking your progress, then send love to that. Be in control. Realize that you are the center force of all of the energy around you, and that all form is a temporary facade. Own your power and expect to have enlightening experiences. Expect to absolutely obtain the answers for yourself, because there's nothing that is stopping you from obtaining the answers. All the answers. Is nothing stopping you from experiencing your inner self, your true self, your multidimensional aspects of yourself, except you. So you have to own it. And the more that you own it, the more these enlightening experiences will happen. It all comes down to mindset. And of course, persistence, as I've said earlier. Daily practice, persistent, and mindset will take you far. It will take you deep within yourself to the answers for yourself. Tap into your own courage to become an effective explorer. Once you fully understand and realize and internalize within yourself that you are immortal, that nothing can stop you from obtaining your true knowledge of self, from experiencing your true self, then nothing can. The problem is that people have bought into these false and primitive belief systems that are fear-based. I have found in 45 years that all the fear-based philosophies out there are bogus. They're man-made to control us. Many of you already know this, but we have to internalize it, because in our subconscious minds, we all are the product of our childhood. I am as well. I was brought up in a very religious family, and I had to break free.
Amen, Bill.
And I had to examine it, and it took some effort. I had to really dig deep, and I would suggest that you do the same. Dig deep. Take a look at your own mindset. Take a look at, what do you believe? What supports what you believe? One of the most shocking things that I learned from in the first 5 years of my OBEs was that almost every single thing that I have learned from birth was flawed or false. And it was shocking to me. Everything. And yet we accept so many, even the concept that we're a human being. Once you, let's say, break free from all these self-imposed paradigms, your ability, your freedom to explore and experience your multidimensional self becomes greater and greater and greater, until you have the ability to absolutely connect with even your higher self or your spiritual essence, or whatever term you use. It's so important, and this all comes down to mindset. And this subject is not talked about enough. Instead, so many are fixated on just techniques. But take my word for it. Mindset is the key to out-of-body exploration. Own your personal power to explore within yourself without limits. And once you internalize that, there's nothing stopping you from obtaining all the answers you need today. Then people can have an enlightening, powerful experience immediately. They don't have to go into a cave and meditate for 20 years. It's a matter of opening up yourself so that you can truly experience that eternal multidimensional aspect of yourself. And that is all comes down to mindset.
Cool. Man, Bielman is like one of my heroes for sure. Let's see. Where were we? I actually made an outline for today's broadcast. You know, one thing he doesn't really talk about a whole lot is how, and I forget who brought it up, but how the OBE experience cured his cancer. He had throat cancer. That's why he always, when he talks, he kind of feels like, it sounds like he's fading out a little bit, you know? And if you want to call in, you can too. Remember, it's 501-777-5631. But anyways, he's not the only person that's claimed to have cured himself of this, you know. One of the most well-known stories of the OBEs comes from Anita. I think her name's I think it's pronounced Morjani. And she had a pretty cool experience during a near-death event in 2006. And she'd been battling cancer for years. Her body was deteriorating to the point where her organs were shutting down. She was in a coma. And then doctors told her that she had they told her family that she had hours to live. This is when she started saying that she had like some serious OBEs, out of body experiences. Free of pain, detached from her physical body, aware of everything that was happening around her. The same stuff. It was more real than real, all this other stuff. Elevated perspective, she claimed. She also said that she could see the doctors working on her, that her family was freaking out, that they were in distress, and even conversations that she heard in the distant rooms that other people backed up that there's no way she could have heard them. So how do you explain that? How did the neuroscientist explain that one? You know. But even more importantly, she said that she entered a realm of incredible peace and unconditional love, which is probably something that was in her heart to begin with and something that she believed. Or she could have went to a place that we're not aware of. Who knows? But naturally, she saw, deceased loved ones, things like that. She also described gaining a deep understanding of her life purpose, why she got sick. She came to this realization. She said that her being afraid of dying actually contributed to her cancer and her illness. So after she had this experience, she all of a sudden made this crazy, miraculous recovery. We're talking about cancer that puts most people down. They're done. She came back from this, baffled the doctors. I need to get her on the show. I've tried to before, but I'll try to do it again. And within days, her tumor shrank. Then she all of a sudden was cancer free. So she come from the very edges of death to cancer free. And that one OBE that she had / NDE changed everything, changed her life, brought her back, changed her whole outlook on life. She came back with a renewed sense of purpose in her life, I know I've watched some YouTube videos on it where she talks about how fear and negativity held her back in every sense of the word, that she talked about love, self-acceptance, and fearlessness, just like Monroe talked about. Fearlessness were the keys to living fully. Imagine that, man. Everybody when I get here, I'll be happy. When I get there, I'll be happy. Or these people have all this good stuff in their life because they're lucky. And every excuse we tell ourselves because we're afraid. That's the truth. We're afraid of being in control of our own happiness in every sense of the word, right? But her story inspired so many people, man. And her book is called Dying to Be Me. And then she describes how her OBE shifted her perspective on health and life and everything. But then you read other stories. Some are peaceful like that. Other stories, they're like, I went to the 7 stages of hell and I met the devil and all these other things. I've had people on the show. I think I had Howard Storm on the show where he talked about how he went to hell or something. I've had people on the show that said that they went to heaven. I've had people on the show that said they went to these different dimensions. So what does that tell you, man? Just how powerful we are. Look at you realize how big the earth is. Imagine how big the earth is compared to just you. But in the astral realm, you can create realities that big, that precise. So here, you're made to believe that you're just a peon amongst a bunch of other billions of peons in a massive universe. And your physical body, is fractally comparably small compared to the rest of the universe, for sure. But who you really are has nothing to do with your body here on the earth. Not really. It's just a game that you're playing so that you can experience things. You're not Sudi. I'm not Joe. Not really. We're just here playing. And when you get into the astral realm, you know, I think I was on the Nuclear Medicine Men's podcast, and a lot of people have me on their podcast because they think that I'm some kind of a half authority in this field, and I'm not. I'm just a student. And I tell them, I'm like, look, I've done this so much, and I've experimented with it and experienced it so much. I haven't gone to these other places that Buellman and Monroe talk about. To me, these guys are adepts. You know, I do know that there's people that claim to have done these things and they haven't. But I'm telling you, William Buellman, okay, Robert Monroe, Thomas Campbell. I'm thinking this Darius Wright guy. I haven't talked to him yet. I haven't felt him out yet, but he seems legit. These people have gone beyond just standing beside their body while they're asleep, beyond the yard, beyond their neighborhoods, beyond the earth, and to different places, I guess. But beyond where? Is it really out there? Is it in there? Is that even a thing? That's the kind of stuff we need to be thinking about, you know? But, you know, every time I start talking about this, people, it's kind of like, do you know how you like to be a positive? If you're a positive person, that you understand this. If you have an abundant mindset, then you're going to understand what I'm about to tell you. No matter how loving, compassionate, and empathetic that you are, how positive you are, if you hang around people that are the opposite mindset of you, you can only do it for so long. No matter how much you love them or care about them, whatever, you can only do it for so long till you have to get away from them, right? You just have to, because it just doesn't line up with you. And this is what happens. We try to influence those people, help them, change them, whatever. And you know what? We think we're doing the right thing. But we have to realize just how powerful our subconscious beliefs are, because the negative, fear-mongering people, that whatever you want to call them, they think they're doing the right thing by telling you to not bury your head in the sand. They think you're the one being tricked. You think they're the ones that are ruining their lives because they're so negative and fearful, and they think you're going to ruin your life or get caught in a trap because you're so positive and naive. And both people are actually coming from places of, if you really think about it, both people are coming from places of care. Because if they didn't care about you, they wouldn't do one or the other. They wouldn't even say anything. Or they're trying to validate what they feel. You can usually tell when someone cares or if they just need validation, though. So environment is important. For me, it's probably one of the things that I am actually polar about, even though I understand polarity. I understand balance and I understand polarity. I understand all of these things. But I fall in the camp of the more positive, abundant kind of mindset camp. Sometimes I get down, yeah, but I don't stay there very long. And I can't stay around people too long that just want to talk about fearful things, or how, you know, it's a prison planet, or how there's really a hell and there's really this and that, whatever. It's not even, and it's not coming from a place of avoidance, or that I don't care, or I don't want to hear about bad things because they scare me. It's not coming from that place at all. It's just that I'm not even afraid of those things. And all you're doing, in my eyes, is you're creating everything that you're talking about. The hell that you're afraid you're going to burn in, you created it, and you will burn in it, so to speak. The heavens that people claim to go to with streets of gold and be with God, they created it with God, I guess you could say, and they will experience it. Doesn't really matter what you believe. In the end, the deepest beliefs that you have in your heart of hearts is what you're going to experience. So what does that mean for the open-minded then? The person that isn't a nihilist, but doesn't really believe anything, that just wants to know the truth and is open to everything. Where do those people go? I know you care about me, Juan. I care about you too, brother. You're about to get nailed by a hurricane. I am actually worried about your physical body and your family and stuff, but I know you're a soldier, bro. I was begging Juan, texting him, dude, just leave. Go take a vacation. But those Floridians, they're strong, man. Strong people. So, with me knowing that, like, I don't want to name names or anything, but I can't be around it. I can't be around a lack mentality. When people do good in their life, or they're like, even when they celebrate the things that are happening in their life that are good, I want to celebrate with them, man. Not pretend that I'm happy for them and then really be like, oh man, I wish that was me. Or they got lucky, or they didn't know. Because I know from my experience through the esoteric stuff, the OBE world, all this stuff, that the more we celebrate and put energy into those things, the more abundant they get. Not just for those people, us, but for others too. There's more abundance to go around than you can imagine. But there's also more fear and hell to go around than you can imagine too. So it really just depends on what you want to experience. And in my mind, the people that want to be in a fearful state all the time and afraid of everything instead of taking things head on or being abundant, is they don't really want freedom. It's easier to be a victim. The only things that we're truly going to be a victim of is our physical bodies, because we're going to die. We have to go through that at some point. And our beliefs. That's it. The rest can be changed, morphed, fixed, worked around, pivoted. Really can. And I wouldn't even believe that if it wasn't for the out-of-body experience that I had. Dude, I've read some terrifying near-death experiences, some terrifying OBEs. Even Monroe had some. Talked about that on Nico's podcast on nuclear medicine. He had some until he came to the realization that he was creating those things. These are, back in the day when I started this, I would ask you, are these just tricks of the mind? When I first started this show. The OB experience, I can say, and I will continue to say, is the one thing that I know is legit, real. It's something that we're tapping beyond this physical reality for sure. It's not an illusion. And I know what some people are going to say. They're going to say, well, maybe you just don't know how powerful your brain actually is. Yeah, well, I'll tell you a small story. And maybe I'm wrong. You can prove me wrong if you want. I don't care. The pre-Oprah couch. So, when I was getting out of body, I told some of you this already, but I was messing around in the yard, flying, talking to people that were asleep, especially my family. And I decided after reading Dr. Stylianos Ateschlis' book, or AKA Daskalos' text, that I wanted to see if I could affect the physical world. Now, he talks about how to do this a little bit in his book, and other people talk about how to do it. And then I watched Ghost with Patrick Swayze and what's her name. So you got to come from your gut, so to speak. So back then, my son lived here, and he had my old bedroom, and all he did was play video games. Well, all he does now, but when he was younger, all he did was play video games. So he'd be facing the wall on the computer playing video games. Name names, Joe? No, I'm not doing that. So I got out of body. This was one of those zones that I was in to where, like, I was having etheric projections left and right, dude. I was in the zone. I could just do it on call. I was at that peak balanced energy, so to speak, you know. So this is when I really started to experiment. And I went into my son's room, and he's playing, he didn't see me. He's playing video games. I went into his room. This was the only time that I'd done this. And I knocked on the desk right beside him with my etheric knuckles. Like that. Right beside him. And the moment I did it, he went from his zoned out video game playing to he jerked like that. I didn't tell him I was going to do it. I didn't say, hey, I'm going to come in here and knock on the desk and, you know, let me know if you hear me. Because your son wants to tell you things sometimes. Just go, yeah, I heard, you know, just to impress dad. I wasn't even going to let that be a variable, right? So after a while, I went in and I asked him, I said, hey, what are you playing? Right. And I think at the time he was playing like Fortnite or something. Did you hear anything weird in here? Because I thought I heard something, you know. And he's like, no, not really. I said, are you sure? Anything at all? I didn't want to be too suggestive, you know. And he's like, well, I kind of did hear something on the desk, but I thought it was just me or my elbow or something that hit it, you know. And I was like, And then I got even more excited then at that point. How can neuroscience explain that? How can a psychologist explain that? That's not disassociation. That's not, what did they call it again? Let me look this up. What did it? I forget. I always forget stuff like that fast too. Getting old, man. Well, it's definitely not disassociation. It's not the vestibular system. So what was that? You know. It's not what is this? God, I cannot say this word. Here, let me put this in the chat. I can't say this word. Temporoparietal. Temporoparietal? Is that the word? It's not the temporoparietal junction. This is what the word is. See if you guys can say it. That. It's not that in my head. It's just funny, man. Like, I want everybody, like, I don't want to stop until everybody has this experience so that everybody can just be like, what's going on? I think if everybody had this like etheric projection, religion wouldn't, like religious sectarianism wouldn't be a thing. Science, the people of science, especially those guys, especially the neurologists, those super smart, book smart, articulate neurologists, those guys, all those people. Yeah, I wish they could all have an etheric projection, just one. And everything would change. Joe Rogan too, you know. But you know why? You know what keeps them from having it? They're not trying. Their belief that it's not real. Do you think that these neurologists or Rogan or any of these people are kind of like using hemisync and trying to get out of body just to see if it's real, like we are? They're not even testing it. They just think it's ridiculous. Or it's a mishap or misfire or a malfunction. Malfunction of the brain. I blame a lot of BS on this too. One of the saddest things that I remember figuring this out too when I was going to UFO conferences. And I heard Travis Walton's case about his alien abduction. And it was one of the most fascinating cases on ET abductions ever, still to this day. Fire in the Sky, a great book. I have a signed copy of that book by him too. What a fascinating story, man. the closest thing that we could ever probably get to, you know, believing like a ET experience based on everything that happened to him, what the town did, all the people that saw it, the lie detector test that they took over and over and over again. It's just something happened to that guy that was weird, at the very least. Something happened to him. And I remember just wanting to talk to him, dude. Like, dude, I want to talk to you. I want to be able to look you in the eye and feel and see if you're telling me the truth. And when I sat down beside that guy and started talking to him about his ET experience, there's no doubt to this day. And I've even been gullible for some pretty charismatic liars. This guy, you can almost tell in a sense that his life has suffered a little bit from his experience and trying to tell people the truth about it, you know. I kind of felt bad for him a little bit. I also really admired him. I thought he was brave, but then I felt bad for him a little bit because here's this guy in a world full of people that are sometimes seeing space trash, calling it a UFO, sometimes having a lucid dream or an out-of-body experience or whatever, saying that they got abducted by aliens or they got an implant in them or whatever. Not everybody's BS, but there's a lot of BSing people out there in this field. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. You can get mad at me all you. I don't care. There is. Flat out. There is. And a guy like Travis, it's hurting him. It hurts his story. So when you take someone like Monroe or William Buellman or I guess that Darius Wright guy, I don't know, you know, like Chris Bledsoe's story is a pretty fascinating story too, man. That's a pretty good one, you know, like or Calvin Parker's story. I like his too. And I hate to even go this far, but this is why stuff can never be taken seriously, or why people like Rogan or the neuroscientists or whatever don't take it seriously. And it's because of all the people that just aren't being authentic and telling the truth. Like, if you don't know that if you've had an experience or that it might have been your imagination, like if you're not saying that, well, it could have been my imagination, or it could have been a dream, or it could have been a lucid dream. I'm not sure. You should say that. You shouldn't be like, yeah, man, I met the Arcturians and whatever. Or I saw this UFO and I reported this thing and it's a satellite or it's space junk. You know. Well, you got someone like Walton that's gone through a crazy traumatic experience that will probably never get the justice that he deserves from it. And I feel this way about the OBE experience. It's not the same subject, but I feel this way because it's different in this realm. Because not only are a lot of people making stuff up, nothing like the ET world, okay, but a little bit. But they're confusing things like lucid dreaming, active imagination, remote viewing even, with the etheric out-of-body projection. And so even when others like, let's say Rogan or Duncan Trussell or one of the bigger people, Sean Ryan even, or you can't really approach it because you don't know. Like, you don't know. Are they talking about remote viewing? Are they talking about lucid dreaming? Are they kooky? Right. It's easier to talk about aliens. At least that's more definitive. And it is frustrating. So this is why I feel like when I was on Tripoli's show, right? I begged him. I was on Tinfoil Hat twice, but talking about hermetics, magic, and stuff like that. And I think Zero once. He's probably, him and Juan and a couple other guys are probably the bigger podcasters that I know. So I was on their shows, and I'm begging people, man, like, I need you to listen to the Monroe tapes, all of them. not the tapes, but the book. I need you to listen to William Buellman. I need you to at least try this. And I'm hoping when I tell these people this from the bottom of my heart that they're going to have like a vibratory experience or even an etheric out-of-body projection. Because just 5 of the right people in the world having this thing happen to them would change the game for this planet. It would change the game. Imagine if you took like Sean Ryan, I don't know, who's some other big people that can really get the word around. Rogan, Russell Brand, that what's the neuroscientist podcast that's really big? I forget that guy's name, that dark-headed guy. If one, or let's say all these guys, actually got to experience an etheric out-of-body projection, not a DMT thing, not a psychedelic experience, not a lucid dream, not a remote viewing experience, right? Where they peeled themselves out of their body in a hypnagogic state, never losing consciousness, never falling asleep, move around in their room, their yard, or just in their local area. Go observe something that's actually happening in the physical world, like a ghost. Go do it. It'll blow their mind. They wouldn't even be able to. It'd probably be all they talk about for a while. For sure, like Rogan and Sean Ryan would be that way. So why is it not getting to these places? Why isn't that Darius Wright guy big enough that he should be on like a bigger, I know he's been on Gaia and like big spiritual podcasts, but why is the alien thing getting to the mainstream, but the OBEs aren't? And I'm not even trying to go conspiratorial about this or say there's some hidden agenda to keep it that way. I'm not. I'm just wondering why, and I'll always wonder this, why people aren't more fascinated with this. I know you are, and I love you for it. But do you talk about it enough outside of our group here and the people? Do you try to talk about it in the public, even though you know that people are going to think you're crazy? Because you should. Especially if you've actually had an OBE. You should be telling everybody, I think, in my opinion. Because this is what's going to wake people up. And then if enough people do wake up to this thing, this whole place is going to change. Faster than AI can make it change. That's kind of what I want. You know, that's what I want to happen. I need your help. Let's go on a big altruistic mission, right? To make it happen. But imagine these methods that are popular. The rope technique, the Focus 12 meditation. The famous pioneers, Monroe, Buellman, you know, these guys, Voldoon from the 20s. I'm not saying that neuroscientists don't have a role to play. Maybe they should step into a place like the Monroe Institute every now and then and observe brainwave patterns and things like that and get more involved. I don't even mind their skepticism or saying that it's just an illusion. But unless they really make an attempt to try to do this, not some attempt coming from a belief that it's not real to begin with, but just an open-minded, strong attempt to try to get out of body, almost as if maybe they want to believe it, that kind of attempt. They should do that. They should definitely do that. All right, let me get to, I had one question I wanted to talk about before we wrap up tonight. I forgot who asked it, but it was like an old Discord question. I had it wrote down here. So the question is, let me scroll up. Should we stop lucid dreaming if we want to have an out-of-body experience? Should we cease from all lucid dreaming experiments and things like that if we want to have an OBE? Well, from my experience, absolutely not. You should not stop doing lucid dreaming. In fact, you should do more of it. They should make it a part of all the OBE curriculums, if you ask me, because the OBE stuff, the lucid dreaming techniques that you do is a key to having an OBE. The only difference, really, besides the fact that one you're in the dream world and the other you're in the etheric realm or the ghost realm, if you want to look at it that way. But the only difference in the exercise, or what happens is a lucid dream is you realize you're dreaming. You go to sleep, you fall asleep, and at some point during the night while you're in a dream, you suddenly realize you're in a dream. And then you take over the dream. You become lucid. You become aware, right? So you're not doing that in the OBE thing, but it's cool because during the day, if you practice lucid dreaming stuff, some people do the mirror thing, the light, they check to see if the lights are there. They do these reality tests all the time. In fact, I did the try to fly thing from dream yoga. Like I would actually go outside, and I know this makes no sense, but I would go outside and try to fly, even though I know I can't. I would try. I know that sounds weird, just fly, but I couldn't. But I was reading this dream yoga book before I had my first OBE. I was doing other things too, Monroe stuff, LBRP stuff, but that was one of the things I was doing. But I truly believe that those awareness exercises that lucid dreamers do helped me a lot, big time. But the biggest difference is you realize, oh, I'm in a dream, and this isn't reality. I need to either wake up, stay here, but you're lucid. The OBE thing, you'd never lose consciousness. This consciousness that you and I have right now, if you're hearing my voice or watching this YouTube channel, you don't slide from it. You don't even dip from it. It doesn't even really change. It slightly changes, but you damn sure don't get anywhere near sleep. You just get relaxed, like you're in a spa, but even more relaxed than that, until you start to feel the vibrations or warm sensations or whatever it is when your body starts to paralyze itself because it's so relaxed that the brain thinks it's time to go to sleep. But this time, your mind is awake, you're awake. So you can actually feel what it's like for your body to go asleep or go paralyzed. Sometimes it hums, sometimes it vibrates, sometimes it does weird things. And if you can stay relaxed and calm and not even get too excited, like that was my thing, I would get too excited, but just stay kind of ready. And then you just peel yourself out. You don't want to go too fast, right? You don't want to go too slow where you're stopping and things like that. For me, the vibrations would kind of come up and then they would kind of peak. And then as the vibrations would kind of start slowing down, that's when I would peel myself up. There would be no difference. I'll tell you what if you lean back in your chair or if you're laying down, just lean back. Whatever you're doing. I take about 3 seconds and lean forward. That's what it feels like. That's it. That's what it looks like. It is not the dream world. I can assure you. Now, imagine those people I talked about, Brand, Sean Ryan, Joe Rogan, any of what we think might be the open-minded people that are challenging all of the government, all of society, and all of science. If they had that experience, oh man, it's exciting talking about it, man. the UFO thing will bring forth the other stuff. Well, maybe, it's ectoplasm. Isn't that sciencey enough? Maybe. I don't know. Sudi's always trying to start some drama. Start naming names. No, but and more importantly, I know the people that listen to this broadcast, whether it's live or later, that you want to have this experience. Some of you have, but some of you that haven't, just keep doing it. Keep going until you do. I can't wait till the phone rings. Because I know the first time someone actually does it, they're going to be so freaking stoked, they're not going to want to say anything. They're not even going to know what to say. I mean, I just had 1 or 2 experiences, and I talked about those for 4 years before I started really getting back into it and having other experiences. That's how much it affected me. There's no dream or lucid dream or Bigfoot experience even, or ghost experience that could ever make me feel like that, even if it really happened. Damn, I'm driving this into the ground, aren't I? All right, we got to roll. I love each and every one of you. Make sure that you guys check out the Fringe FM podcast that will be coming soon. When the first episode drops, I'll let you guys know. Please, if you haven't supported this show, help the people that have support the show. Without your support, we wouldn't be able to do this at all. So the ones that have supported, thank you so much. I love you. Big shout out to the people that are about to experience this hurricane. We're here with you. Keep us posted. If there's anything we can do at the station or on this show or whatever to help, man, let us know. Get some sleep, Domek. Wakey, wakey, hands off Snakey.